The warning lights flashed red across the Zephyrian monitoring station. Commander Veltar rushed to the main display screen, his forearms moving quickly over the control panels. Something was coming toward their space territory. Something big. Report. Veltar ordered his crew. 5 unknown vessels detected at the edge of our outer defense zone, said scanner operator Hixtel. They are moving slowly but steadily toward our protected space. Veltar studied the images on the screen. The ships looked strange. They were not sleek like proper space vessels should be. Instead, they appeared thick and heavy, with big reinforced fronts that stuck out like the prow of an ancient sea ship. The design seemed primitive and crude. What kind of ships are these? Veltar asked. Computer analysis suggests they are icebreaker vessels, replied technical analyst Mordan. The front sections are designed to break through solid barriers. But this makes no sense, there is no ice in space. Veltar scratched his scaled head with one of his smaller arms. In all his years of monitoring space traffic, he had never seen anything like these vessels. Most civilized species built smooth, efficient ships that could move quickly through space. These looked like floating hammers. Meanwhile, aboard the lead human vessel, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Arctic Dawn. He watched the star charts on his navigation screen and felt proud of his ship. She was not the prettiest vessel in the human fleet, but she was built for a special job. How are our systems looking, Lisa? Morrison asked his chief engineer. Lisa Banks checked her instruments. All systems running smooth, Captain. The reinforced hull plating is holding well and our backup power systems are ready. These old icebreaker designs really work well for this kind of mission. Morrison nodded. The Arctic Dawn and her sister ships were based on the old icebreaker ships that used to break through frozen seas on Earth. But these space versions were built for something much more dangerous than ice. They were made to punch through debris fields, asteroid clusters, and the dangerous space junk that blocked the way to unexplored systems. Any word from the other ships? Morrison asked. Communications officer Amy Rodriguez turned from her station. The Polar Star, Ice Runner, Glacier Bay, and Northern Wind are all keeping formation. Admiral Wright sends her regards and says we are making good time. Navigator Pete Collins looked up from his charts. Captain, we are approaching what looks like an asteroid field. But the pattern seems strange. It is almost like the rocks are placed there on purpose. Morrison walked over to look at the navigation display. The asteroids did seem to form a kind of barrier around the inner system. Interesting. Natural formation or artificial? Hard to say, sir, Collins replied. But if we want to reach the inner planets, we will have to go through it. Back on the Zephyrian station, Commander Veltar was getting more worried by the minute. The strange ships were not slowing down as they approached the asteroid defense field. Most species would stop and try to find a way around such a dangerous obstacle. These vessels seem determined to go straight through. Are they trying to commit suicide? Asked Hixtel. Perhaps they do not understand the danger, Morden suggested. Their technology appears primitive. Maybe they cannot detect our defense systems hidden in the asteroids. Veltar was not so sure. The ships moved with purpose, not like lost explorers. Their formation was too organized, too military. But what kind of military force would use such crude-looking vessels? Dr. Nathan Green sat in his laboratory aboard the Arctic Dawn, studying what little data they had about this star system. As the fleet's expert on alien life, he was trying to guess what kind of beings might live here. The fact that they hide behind such a big asteroid field tells us something, Green said to his assistant. Either they are very advanced and secretive, or they have been hurt badly before and are afraid of visitors. Which do you think it is, Doctor? Asked the assistant. Hard to say, but either way, we need to be careful. Scared aliens can be just as dangerous as advanced ones. Captain Morrison received a message from Admiral Susan Wright aboard the Polar Star. Her voice came through the communication system clearly. All ships, this is Admiral Wright. Long-range scans show signs of artificial structures in the inner system. We may have found what we are looking for. Prepare for possible contact with hostile forces. Morrison felt his heart beat faster. This was why they were here. Somewhere in this system, human colonists were trapped. The colony ship New Horizon had disappeared in this area 3 years ago, with 50,000 people aboard. Earth had sent the Icebreaker fleet to find them and bring them home. Lisa, switch all systems to combat readiness, Morrison ordered. Already on it, Captain, Banks replied. Hull reinforcement at maximum, redundant systems online. We are ready for whatever comes next. The 5 human ships moved steadily toward the asteroid field. Their thick hulls and reinforced fronts made them look like battering rams in space. They were not fast or graceful, but they were built to survive impacts that would destroy normal ships. Commander Veltar watched the approaching vessels with growing alarm. They showed no signs of stopping or turning away. The lead ship was heading straight for the densest part of the asteroid field, where the hidden weapons platforms waited. Should we activate the defense systems? Asked Mordan. Not yet, Veltar replied. Let us see what they do when they encounter the first obstacles. Maybe they will turn back when they realize the danger. But deep down, Veltar had a feeling these strange ships would not turn back. Something about their design and their steady approach suggested they were built for one purpose: breaking through barriers that other ships could not handle. The first contact between humans and Zephyrians was about to begin, and neither side fully understood what they were dealing with. The human ships entered the asteroid field without slowing down. Commander Veltar watched in amazement as the lead vessel smashed into the first large rock. Instead of being destroyed, the ship pushed right through it. Chunks of asteroid bounced off its thick front section like pebbles hitting a wall. Impossible, whispered scanner operator Hickstel. No ship should be able to survive that kind of impact. Tactical analyst Kethra had been studying the human vessels for hours. She turned to Commander Veltar with worry in her large eyes. Sir, I have completed my analysis of these ships. They are not primitive at all. This design is very advanced, but not in the way we understand. Explain, Veltar ordered. These vessels are built to absorb massive damage and keep working. Look at this. Kethra pointed to her screen. Triple hull layers, backup systems for every major component, emergency power sources throughout the ship. They are designed to survive things that would kill our best warships. Veltar felt a chill run through his body. Are you saying these are warships? Worse than warships, sir. Warships are built to fight and win quickly. These ships are built to take punishment and never stop moving forward. They are like living battering rams. Meanwhile, aboard the Arctic Dawn, Captain Morrison watched his forward screen as another asteroid crumbled against his ship's reinforced bow. The impact shook the bridge, but all systems remained stable. Hull damage report, Morrison called out. Chief Engineer Lisa Banks checked her instruments. Minor scoring on the outer plating. All systems green. The old girl is holding up perfectly. Navigator Pete Collins plotted their course through the asteroid maze. Captain, I am seeing something strange. Some of these asteroids have metal structures inside them. This might not be a natural formation. Morrison studied the scanner readings. Amy, are you picking up any energy signatures? Communications Officer Amy Rodriguez adjusted her equipment. Yes, sir. Very faint, but there are definitely artificial power sources scattered throughout this field. It is like someone built a defense system and tried to hide it. Admiral Susan Wright's voice came over the communication channel from the Polar Star. All ships, be advised, we have detected weapon platforms disguised as asteroids. This is definitely an artificial barrier. Stay alert and maintain formation. Dr. Nathan Green was in his laboratory, analyzing the debris from the asteroids they had smashed through. His findings were disturbing. Captain, you need to see this, he called Morrison over the intercom. Morrison arrived at the lab to find Green holding a piece of metal. What is it, Doctor? This came from one of the asteroids we broke through. It is not natural rock at all. Someone has been building fake asteroids and filling them with weapons. The question is, who would go to such trouble to keep visitors away? Someone with something to hide, Morrison replied grimly. Back on the monitoring station, Commander Veltar was receiving reports from all over the asteroid field. The human ships had triggered 17 weapon platforms so far. Each time, the automated guns fired their most powerful shots at the intruding vessels. Damage assessment? Veltar asked. Minimal, reported weapons specialist Toruk. The enemy ships have some kind of energy shielding that absorbs most of our plasma blasts. What gets through barely scratches their armor. How is this possible? Veltar demanded. Those weapons can destroy a Confederate cruiser with 3 shots. Kethra brought up a tactical display. Sir, I think I understand now. These ships are not built like our vessels. We make ships light and fast with powerful weapons and shields. These humans build ships heavy and tough, designed to take damage instead of avoiding it. Commander Veltar stared at the display showing the 5 human ships steadily pushing through the asteroid field. They moved slowly but never stopped. Every obstacle they encountered was either smashed through or pushed aside. It was like watching unstoppable forces of nature. Send a message to Fleet Command, Veltar ordered. Tell them we have a problem. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Hayes stood on the bridge of the Polar Star, studying the tactical situation. As Admiral, Wright's intelligence officer, it was his job to figure out what they were dealing with. Admiral, the pattern of these weapon platforms suggests a defensive mindset, Hayes reported. Someone is very afraid of visitors. They have spent enormous resources to build this barrier. Admiral Wright nodded. The question is, what are they protecting, and why are they so scared? Maybe they have our people, suggested Hayes. The New Horizon colony ship disappeared somewhere in this system. If these aliens captured our colonists, they would want to keep rescue ships away. The thought made Wright's blood boil. 50,000 human men, women, and children had vanished, without a trace. If aliens had taken them prisoner, no barrier in the universe would stop her from getting them back. All ships, increase speed, Wright ordered. We are going through this field whether they like it or not. The human fleet pushed deeper into the asteroid maze. Each ship took dozens of hits from hidden weapons, but their thick armor and multiple backup systems kept them operational. They were like ancient knights in heavy armor, slow but impossible to stop. Commander Veltar watched helplessly as his defensive perimeter was systematically destroyed. The weapon platforms that had protected Zephyrian space for centuries were being smashed or bypassed one by one. Sir, should we call for military reinforcements? Asked Hixtel. Already done, Veltar replied. But I fear our regular military ships will not be effective against these monsters. We need to rethink everything we know about space combat. Kethra was still studying the human ships when she made a terrible discovery. Commander, I have been analyzing their engine signatures. These ships are not alone. There are more of them coming. How many more? Veltar asked with dread. At least 20 more vessels of similar design, maybe more. And sir, some of them are much larger than these 5. If these are their scouts, what we have seen so far is nothing compared to what is coming. The realization hit Veltar like a physical blow. The 5 ships currently smashing through his defenses were not an invasion force. They were just the advance guard. Somewhere behind them, a much larger fleet of these unstoppable ships was heading towards Zephyrian space. For the first time in his long military career, Commander Veltar felt true fear. His people had always relied on their defensive barriers and superior technology to protect them. But these humans did not care about barriers. They simply broke through them and kept coming. The worst part was that the humans had not even tried to communicate or negotiate. They just appeared and started smashing through everything in their path. What kind of species acted with such single-minded determination? As the human ships cleared the outer edge of the asteroid field and headed toward the inner planets, Veltar realized his people were about to face something they had never encountered before. An enemy that could not be stopped, reasoned with, or turned away. The real battle was about to begin. The emergency alarm screamed throughout the Zephyrian command center. Commander Veltar rushed between control stations as reports flooded in from across the inner system. The human ships had broken through the asteroid field and were now heading straight for the inhabited planets. Fleet Command is demanding answers, reported Communications Officer Yexta. They want to know how 5 primitive ships destroyed our outer defenses. Commander Veltar felt sick. Tell them the truth. These are not primitive ships. They are something far worse. They are ships that cannot be stopped. Tactical Analyst. Kethra had been working all night to understand the human vessels. She turned to Veltar with fear in her voice. Sir, I have discovered something terrible. These ships are not explorers. They are not even regular warships. They are invasion vessels designed for one purpose only. What purpose? Veltar asked, though he dreaded the answer. Breaking through any defense, no matter how strong, to reach their target. Look at the design again. Everything about these ships says the same thing. We will get through, no matter what you put in our way. Veltar stared at the tactical display showing the 5 human ships moving steadily toward the core worlds. Each ship looked like a massive club designed to smash through walls. How long until they reach Zephyr Prime? At their current speed, 18 hours, Kethra replied. Meanwhile, Captain Morrison stood in his ready room aboard the Arctic Dawn, reading a priority message from Earth Command. The words on the screen made his jaw tighten with anger. Amy, get me Admiral Wright on a secure channel, Morrison ordered. A few minutes later, Admiral Susan Wright's face appeared on his communication screen. She looked as grim as Morrison felt. You got the new orders too? Wright asked. Yes, ma'am. Mission parameters have changed completely. This is no longer an exploration mission. Wright nodded. Fleet Admiral Tony Martinez was very clear. Long-range deep space sensors have detected the New Horizon colony ship. It is in orbit around the 4th planet in this system. Morrison felt his heart race. Are they alive? Unknown, but the ship appears to be intact. Our people might still be there. Wright's expression grew harder. Jake, if those aliens have hurt our colonists, we are going to make them pay. Dr. Nathan Green was called to the bridge to hear the new intelligence. As the fleet's expert on alien behavior, his opinion would be crucial for what came next. Doctor, based on what we have seen so far, what do you think happened to our people? Morrison asked. Green studied the data on his tablet. The defensive behavior we have encountered suggests these aliens are territorial and secretive. If they captured our colony ship, they probably forced our people to work for them. Slave labor is common among species that build such elaborate defenses. Can we get them back? Asked Navigator Pete Collins. That depends on how determined we are, Green replied. These icebreaker ships were designed for exactly this kind of mission, breaking through enemy defenses to rescue trapped humans. Chief Engineer Lisa Banks had been listening from her station. Captain, should I begin combat? Modifications to our systems? Morrison looked around the bridge at his crew. Every face showed the same expression, determination mixed with controlled anger. Do it, Lisa. Switch everything to rescue configuration. Back on the Zephyrian monitoring station, Commander Veltar received a disturbing report from the inner system. A junior officer named Pixrem had been monitoring the human colony ship that had been captured 3 years ago. Sir, there is increased activity around the human prisoner facilities on Zephyr 4. The slaves seem agitated about something. Veltar's stomach dropped. How do they know their people are coming? Unknown, sir. But the human prisoners are becoming difficult to control. Security forces have had to increase patrols around the work camps. On the planet's surface, Mayor Helen Foster looked up at the alien sky from inside the prison compound. She had been the elected leader of the New Horizon colonists when they were captured. For 3 years, she had kept hope alive among her people. Minky, you really think they are coming for us? Asked Chief Security Officer Rick Thompson. He had organized secret resistance cells among the prisoners, always ready for a chance to fight back. I can feel it in my bones, Rick. Earth has not forgotten us. Those ships breaking through the alien defenses can only mean one thing. Our people are coming home. Word spread quickly through the prisoner camps. 50,000 humans who had been forced to work in alien mines and factories suddenly had hope again. They began to prepare for rescue, hiding tools and organizing escape plans. The Zephyrian guards noticed the change in their prisoners immediately. The humans who had been beaten down and compliant for years were now standing straighter, working, slower, and looking at the sky with anticipation. Prison Warden Colthax sent an urgent message to Fleet Command. The human prisoners know something. They are preparing for rebellion. We need military support immediately. Admiral Wright received a communication from her scout ships that had pushed ahead of the main fleet. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Hayes's voice crackled over the radio from the reconnaissance vessel Ice Runner. Admiral, we have visual contact with the human colony ship. The New Horizon is in orbit around the fourth planet, but it has been modified. The aliens have attached mining equipment and prison barges to it. Wright's hands clenched into fists. Any signs of our people? Yes, ma'am. Thermal scans show human life signs in the attached structures. Thousands of them. They are using our colonists as slave labor. The bridge of the Polar Star went dead silent. Every human officer felt the same cold rage building in their chest. Their people had been enslaved for 3 years, forced to work for the aliens who had captured them. All ships, this is Admiral Wright, she broadcast to the entire fleet. Our people are alive, but they have been enslaved. The aliens made a big mistake when they decided to capture human colonists. Now they are going to learn what happens when you mess with our families. Captain Morrison felt the Arctic dawn shudder as Chief Engineer Banks activated the combat modifications. The ship's already impressive armor was reinforced even further. Backup weapon systems came online. Emergency medical bays prepared for casualties. Captain, all systems show green for rescue operations, Banks reported. We are ready to punch through whatever they put between us and our people. Commander Veltar watched his tactical display with growing horror. The 5 human ships had been joined by more vessels emerging from deep space. 20 massive ships, each larger than the original 5, were heading towards Zephyrian space. Sir, we are receiving surrender demands from the approaching fleet, reported Yexta. Surrender demands? Veltar asked in confusion. Yes, sir. They are demanding the immediate release of all human prisoners and the return of their colony ship. They say if we comply, they will leave peacefully. If we refuse, Yar. What if we refuse? Yexta's voice shook as she read the message. They say they will break through every defense we have and take their people back by force. And sir, they say this is not a threat. It is a promise. Veltar realized with crystal clarity that his people had made a terrible mistake 3 years ago. They had thought capturing one human colony ship would be easy profit. Instead, they had signed their own death warrant. These were not invasion ships coming to conquer Zephyrian space. They were rescue ships, and rescue ships were far more dangerous than any army. An army might negotiate or retreat when faced with heavy losses. Rescuers would die before they gave up on their people. The Zephyrian Confederacy was about to learn why humans built icebreakers. The Zephyrian Council of Hierarchs met in emergency session on the capital world. Supreme Commander Zarthek stood at the center of the Great Hall, his ceremonial robes shaking with rage and fear. Around him, the most powerful leaders of the Confederacy argued loudly about what to do. We cannot surrender to these primitive beings, declared War Minister Vexachar. Our reputation throughout the galaxy depends on showing strength. Strength? Shouted Economic Minister Loxtel. These creatures just smashed through our most powerful defenses like they were made of paper. What strength do we have left? Supreme Commander Zarthek raised all 4 of his arms for silence. Enough. We face a crisis unlike any in our history. These humans do not behave like any species we have encountered before. How so? Asked Science Minister Kethvol. Every species we have met follows basic rules of warfare. They retreat when faced with superior numbers. They negotiate when confronted with heavy losses. They surrender when defeat becomes certain. Zarthek's voice grew quieter and more frightening. These humans follow none of these rules. Meanwhile, the human rescue fleet had grown to over 30 ships. Captain Morrison watched from the bridge of the Arctic dawn as more vessels arrived from Earth. Each ship bore the same thick, reinforced design that had puzzled the aliens so much. Admiral Wright wants to see you in the Fleet Command Center, reported Communications Officer Amy Rodriguez. Morrison made his way to the Polar Star, where Admiral Wright had set up the rescue operation headquarters. The command center buzzed with activity as officers planned the assault on the Zephyrian defensive lines. Jake, good to see you, Wright said as Morrison entered. I want you to take point on the breakthrough operation. Your ship has the best track record of absorbing damage and staying operational. What are we facing? Morrison asked, studying the tactical displays. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Hayes stepped forward with intelligence reports. The aliens have pulled back most of their mobile fleet to create 3 defensive lines around the planet where our people are held. Each line has about 50 warships. Morrison whistled. 150 enemy ships against our 30. Those are not good odds. They would be impossible odds for a normal fleet, Wright agreed. But we are not a normal fleet, we are icebreakers, and icebreakers do not care about odds. They only care about reaching their destination. Dr. Nathan Green had been studying the alien defensive formations. Admiral, I think the aliens still do not understand what they are facing. Look at their ship positioning. They are trying to create killing fields where they can destroy us with concentrated fire. And, Wright asked, that strategy works against ships that try to avoid damage. It does not work against ships designed to absorb punishment and keep moving forward. They are setting up the wrong kind of defense. On the planet's surface, the human prisoners could see alien military ships filling the sky. Prison warden Coulthax had tripled the guards around the work camps, but the humans no longer seemed afraid. Colony Administrator Carol Jenkins stood in the main prisoner compound, addressing a crowd of colonists. Our people are up there fighting to get us home. We need to be ready to help them when the time comes. Security Chief Danny Walsh had spent 3 years organizing resistance cells among the prisoners. All teams are ready. When the shooting starts, we take control of the prison facilities and secure the landing zones for rescue shuttles. The alien guards could feel the change in their prisoners. Humans who had been defeated and broken for years were now standing tall, organizing themselves, preparing for something. It made the guards nervous. Captain Morrison received his final orders from Admiral Wright. The human fleet was about to engage the first Zephyrian defensive line. 25 massive icebreaker ships would punch through the alien formation, while 5 scout vessels would race ahead to begin prisoner evacuation. All ships, this is Admiral Wright, came the broadcast. Remember why we are here. 50,000 of our people have been waiting 3 years for us to bring them home. No alien defense is going to stop us from completing that mission. Chief Engineer Lisa Banks made final checks on the Arctic Dawn systems. Hull reinforcement at maximum. All backup systems online. Damage control teams standing by. We are as ready as we will ever be. The human fleet accelerated toward the first alien defensive line. The Zephyrian ships opened fire when the humans were still far away, hoping to destroy them before they could get close. Plasma bolts and energy beams filled space between the 2 fleets. Supreme Commander Zarthek watched the battle from his command ship. He expected to see the human vessels destroyed or turned back by the massive firepower his ships were putting out. Instead, he watched in horror as the human ships absorbed hit after hit and kept coming. Damage reports on the enemy ships? Zarthek demanded. Minimal, sir, replied his tactical officer. Their armor is absorbing most of our weapons fire. What gets through does not seem to slow them down. Captain Morrison felt the Arctic Dawn shake as alien weapons struck his ship. Damage report. Hull scoring on decks 7 through 12, Banks reported. No critical systems affected. All weapons and engines still operational. The human ships reached the first alien defensive line and smashed straight through it. Zephyrian vessels that tried to block their path were rammed aside or destroyed. The aliens had expected a traditional space battle with maneuvering and long-range shooting. Instead, they got a bulldozer charge that swept them away. First line has been broken, reported Navigator Pete Collins. Enemy ships are scattering. Second defensive line ahead, added Amy Rodriguez. They are trying to reform their battle formation. Admiral Wright's voice came over the fleet communication channel. All ships, maintain formation and speed. Do not stop to engage scattered enemies. Our target is the planet, not their fleet. The second alien defensive line tried a different strategy. Instead of trying to block the human ships, they attempted to surround them and attack from all sides. This also failed. The human icebreakers simply ignored the ships attacking their flanks and sides, focusing only on moving forward. Supreme Commander Zarthek realized with growing terror that his traditional military thinking was useless against these creatures. They are not fighting us, he said to his officers. They are just moving through us like we do not exist. Should we retreat and regroup? Asked his second-in-command. Retreat where? Zarthek replied bitterly. They are not trying to conquer our territory or destroy our fleet. They only want one thing and they will not stop until they get it. The human fleet broke through the second defensive line with even less difficulty than the first. The alien ships were not designed to fight enemies that ignored them and kept moving toward their objective. As the human ships approached the third and final defensive line, Communications Officer Rodriguez picked up transmissions from the planet's surface. "Captain, I am getting signals from our people down there. They say they have taken control of several prison facilities and are securing landing zones." Captain Morrison smiled grimly. "Tell them help is on the way. Nothing is going to stop us now." The final alien defensive line was the strongest, with the newest and most powerful Zephyrian warships. But they suffered from the same problem as the others. They were designed to fight enemies that would retreat when damaged. The human icebreakers did not retreat. They did not even slow down. Supreme Commander Zarthek watched his final defensive line crumble and realized the terrible truth. His people had not captured a simple colony ship 3 years ago. They had kidnapped the families of the most relentlessly determined species in the galaxy. Now those families were coming home and nothing in the universe was going to stop them. Supreme Commander Zarthek stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the human icebreakers punch through his final defensive line. Around him, his officers stared in silent horror as their most powerful warships were swept aside like leaves in a storm. "Sir, the enemy fleet has broken through all 3 defensive perimeters," reported his tactical officer. "They are heading directly for Zephyr 4. Zarthek felt something he had never experienced in his long military career: complete helplessness. "How many ships have we lost?" 47 destroyed, 23 disabled. The humans have lost 0 ships, though several show heavy damage. "Heavy damage, but still fighting," Zarthek said quietly. "That tells us everything we need to know about these creatures." Admiral Susan Wright stood on the bridge of the Polar Star as her fleet approached the planet where their people were imprisoned. Through the forward view screen, she could see the captured human colony ship New Horizon in orbit, surrounded by alien prison barges and mining platforms. Transport Coordinator Michelle Stone, "Are you ready for mass evacuation?" Wright asked. "Over the communication channel." "Ready and waiting, Admiral," Stone replied from her evacuation ship. "All rescue shuttles are prepared for immediate deployment. Medical teams are standing by for any injured colonists." Captain Morrison brought the Arctic Dawn into low orbit above the planet. His ship had taken the most damage during the breakthrough, with scorch marks covering half the hull and several weapon systems destroyed. But the engine still worked, and that was all that mattered. "Amy, can you reach our people on the surface?" Morrison asked. Communications Officer Amy Rodriguez worked frantically at her station. "I have contact with Colony Administrator Carol Jenkins. She says the prisoners have taken control of Landing Zone Alpha and are holding it for our shuttles." Down on the planet's surface, Carol Jenkins watched alien guards flee in panic as human rescue shuttles descended from the sky. After 3 years of imprisonment, seeing ships with Earth markings felt like a miracle. "Danny, how are the other landing zones?" she asked Security Chief Danny Walsh. "Zones Beta and Gamma are secure. The alien guards are not even trying to fight anymore. They are just running away." Walsh smiled for the first time in years. "Looks like our rescuers put the fear of God into them." Dr. Nathan Green was aboard one of the first shuttles to reach the surface. As the fleet's expert on alien behavior, he wanted to understand what had happened to the colonists during their captivity. "Carol, it is good to see you alive," Green said as he stepped off the shuttle. "How many of our people are still here?" "Almost all of us," Jenkins replied with tears in her eyes. "We lost some to accidents and sickness, but the aliens kept us alive for work. 47,000 people ready to go home." The evacuation proceeded with military efficiency. Transport ships landed at secure zones while armed shuttles provided protection. The human prisoners moved quickly but calmly, organized by leaders who had kept hope alive for 3 years. Meanwhile, Supreme Commander Zarthek received reports from the planet's surface that made him feel sick. His ground forces were abandoning their posts without orders. Even his most elite troops were refusing to fight the human rescue teams. "Why will they not stand and fight?" Zarthek demanded. "Because they have heard what happened to our space fleet," replied his intelligence officer. "Word has spread that these humans cannot be stopped or reasoned with. Our soldiers believe that fighting them means certain death." Captain Morrison watched the evacuation from orbit while keeping an eye on the remaining alien ships. Most of The Zephyrian fleet had withdrawn to a safe distance, unwilling to engage the human icebreakers again. "Captain, we have a priority transmission from the surface," reported Amy Rodriguez. "It is from one of the alien commanders." The face of a frightened Zephyrian officer appeared on Morrison's screen. The alien was clearly terrified but trying to maintain some dignity. "Human commander, I am Prison Warden Kulthax. I wish to surrender my facility and turn over all remaining prisoners to your forces." Morrison stared at the alien coldly. "You had 3 years to treat our people with respect. Why should we accept your surrender now?" "Because we realize we made a terrible mistake," Kulthax replied. "We thought your people were just another weak species we could exploit. We did not understand what we were dealing with." Dr. Green had returned to the fleet and was analyzing captured alien records about the human prisoners. What he found made him angry but not surprised. "Admiral, the aliens have detailed files on our colonists. They have been using our people as slave labor in dangerous mining operations. Many injuries, harsh conditions, minimal food." Admiral Wright's expression hardened. "Did they harm any children?" "Some, but most of the children were kept in separate facilities with better conditions. I think the aliens knew that hurting children would make us even more angry." "Smart of them," Wright said grimly, "though not smart enough to avoid capturing our people in the first place." The last shuttle load of human prisoners lifted off from the planet's surface. Transport Coordinator Stone managed the complex operation of moving 47,000 people from the surface to the waiting evacuation ships. "Admiral, all personnel have been recovered," Stone reported. "We are ready to begin the journey home." But Admiral Wright was not quite finished. She opened a communication channel to all remaining Zephyrian ships in the system. "This is Admiral Susan Wright of the Earth Rescue Fleet. Your forces captured 50,000 human civilians 3 years ago. We have now recovered our people, but before we leave you need to understand something important." Supreme Commander Zarthek listened to the human admiral's words with growing dread. "You thought you saw icebreaker ships designed for breaking through frozen seas. You were wrong. These ships were built for one purpose: breaking through any barrier, no matter how strong, to reach human beings in danger. Today you learned what happens when humans are trapped behind barriers." Wright's voice grew colder. "But this is not the end of our message. Earth Command has given me new coordinates. More human colonies have gone missing in distant sectors of the galaxy. More icebreaker fleets are being prepared. If you or any other species in this galaxy thinks you can capture human civilians and use them as slaves, you will discover that we have built many more ships like these." The transmission ended, leaving dead silence on Zarthek's bridge. The human fleet was already moving away from Zephyr 4, their rescue mission complete. But the Supreme Commander knew this was not really an ending. It was a warning. "Commander?" Veltar's voice came over the communication channel from the monitoring station. "Supreme Commander, long-range sensors show the human fleet departing the system. But sir, there are more ships coming from Earth space. Many more." Zarthek closed his eyes. "How many?" "At least 100 vessels, sir. All of the same design, all heading for different star systems where human colonies have disappeared." The Zephyrian Confederacy had learned a terrible lesson. Humans did not build icebreakers to explore new worlds or conquer alien empires. They built them because somewhere in the vast galaxy, human beings might be trapped behind barriers that only pure, unstoppable determination could break through. And when humans decided to reach their people, no force in the universe could stop them from bringing their families home. The galaxy was about to discover that human icebreakers were not ships at all. They were promises made of metal and determination. "No matter where you are, no matter what stands in our way, we will come for you." The age of thinking humans were easy prey had just ended forever.